On February 10, 1998, at 7 p.m., I smoked weed for the first time ever. I was 17 and I remember that moment perfectly because it was the first psychedelic experience of my life. Within a few minutes of taking 4 big hits, I left my body and I traveled to another dimension. Within 2 hours, I started getting messages and visions that I couldn't understand. Looking at my 4 other friends I was smoking with, it was clear to me that my experience was very different from theirs. I've never been a regular smoker, but when I was younger, I would do it at least once every few weeks with my friends or by myself playing Quake through the night. I didn't know about meditation back then and I smoked mainly to get relaxed. I didn't understand the visions and the messages and I was ignoring them for many years. They were too chaotic and too incoherent, and looking back at those experiences now, I think my brain wasn't ready to be the receiver of interdimensional communication. The entities were also there, but I definitely wasn't at a place where I could talk to them. I'm talking about this now because after I made one of the first 434 videos called Who, What Are Machine Elves, I mentioned the psychedelic properties of the plant and I received a lot of feedback from people saying it is not possible, from people asking how it can be done, and from people describing the same type of psychedelic contact. While recording a podcast with Trip Whip recently, he described the same thing that happened to him, and I took it as a sign that the time for this video has come. In the same way as mushrooms allow me to contact machine elves, I believe my reaction to weed is also quite unusual. I'm going to tell you now what happened that made me realize that this magic flower has psychedelic properties. First, just a quick reminder that these videos and this channel are completely crowdfunded by you. Social media calls you subscribers and followers. I call you like-minded fellow travelers on a metaphysical journey through this reality. If you feel like this journey is easier thanks to 434, please consider supporting it so that we can move things forward spiritually and so that we can raise our frequency collectively. It is very easy to join Patreon or Subscribestar, and if you have never done it, give it a try. You can also donate through PayPal, no account needed, or make a bank transfer or use cryptocurrency. All of this takes only a moment. 434 can't exist without your generosity, and I'm extremely grateful for your help. Around 2014, one of my friends gave me a small bag of weed. I didn't know what strain it was, and she said to be careful because it was strong. I had heard people say this before, so I didn't really pay much attention to her warning. I decided to make brownies with it, and I baked the usual amount and ate 3 pieces of it. Within an hour, it was clear that this is not regular stuff, and the trip turned into a nightmarish ordeal. Another girl who ate brownies with me started getting panic attacks, and we both went into a very bad place. After things calmed down, I went to sleep and slept for 12 hours, and afterwards, I couldn't stop tripping for 2 days. Now that I look back at it, I know it wasn't a trip, but poisoning. That's how strong it was. For more than a year, I kept the rest of it in my drawer, and then in August 2015, I discovered mushrooms, and not long after that, I decided to smoke some of that herb a little bit to relax. Since I already knew about my hypersensitivity to all chemical substances, I decided to take just 1 hit, and to my surprise, I didn't experience the usual sleepy sensation, but I was contacted by machine elves and I had a regular psychedelic trip instead. After that, I stopped taking mushrooms and I would just smoke tiny amounts to get in contact with the interdimensional entities. There was virtually no difference between a mushroom trip and smoking. This lasted for a few months until I finally ran out of what was in my drawer, and then I started experimenting with different strains, but unfortunately, I realized that they don't have the same psychedelic effect. I started going through a lot of strains just to see if any of them could work in the same way as this unknown one I got from my friend, and to this day, I've been unsuccessful in finding it. There's a strain called Blue Dream that got close to it, but it's only a fraction of the sensation I had previously. I noticed that strong sativa strains have more of a psychedelic effect than indica strains, but to this day, I have not found out what that original strain was. Ever since I made that video about the definition of machine elves, many of you have contacted me to say that you had the same psychedelic experience, and it seems that it's not just me, and that many people can have a psychedelic trip without psychedelics. I would ask you to describe those similar experiences in the comment section, because I know that many of you have some additional information that could be helpful. It would be nice to compare notes. From my experiments and the information I gathered, it seems that sativa strains and high levels of THC are responsible for the psychedelic effect in weed. Also, edibles have a completely different effect than smoking. Prior to making this video, I looked online again to see what everyone says after 4 years, and it seems that people are starting to realize that this entheogen can have a mind-expanding effect, and there is now plenty of articles and reports confirming it. I even found some peer-reviewed scientific papers dealing with this issue. Here's my theory on why this plant can be a psychedelic. I believe our body is a consciousness filter, and substances like psilocybin switch off the mechanism responsible for blocking access to our higher self or interdimensional communication. What I find interesting is that you need a psychedelic initiation first for grass to have this effect. It seems that psychedelics open some sort of a gate that allows for the mind to be liberated from the physical limitations of the body. I need to explain that I myself, I'm not a big fan of weed. I really love the relaxing properties of indica strains, but I noticed that strong sativa strains can have a very detrimental effect on my emotions and my sleeping patterns. Many recent studies have indicated that regular consumption leads to behavioral and personality changes that have a negative effect on your body. And because Machine Elves made it clear that taking care of sanity is very important in this reality, I would strongly suggest that you limit the amount of bud you smoke. I know it's fun, but I think we don't fully understand its effect on the human body, and we're only starting to discover how these terpenes can help us. It is also important to watch your dosage because smoking or consuming excessive amounts of weed can cause panic attacks, paranoia, and extreme depression, some of which can make you end up in an emergency room. I've seen it happen and I experienced some of it myself. Remember that my psychedelic trips on weed happen after one hit, but that might be just me and my crazy sensitivity. I encourage you to experiment to see if you can experience the same psychedelic effects. Try meditating after smoking or eating brownies. Look into the hallucinogenic effects of various types of strains. Try opening your communication channel with a psychedelic first, and then experiment with pot. Some strains can have psychedelic and hallucinogenic properties. I would advise against mixing them as they are too unpredictable on their own, let alone combined. Grass has a lot of benefits and used responsibly can be great. I'm really happy that the recent change in legislation in many states and countries made it legal, and I feel it is the first step in also making psychedelics legal. There's a lot we don't understand about the chemistry of our bodies, and if some of us can experience expansion of consciousness using this plant, it means that there's a big section of human biology that needs a lot of attention. It is my goal to one day conduct a study finding a correlation between psychedelic states and weed. If you want to help me get there quicker, sponsor this channel through one of the methods listed in the video description. The next video will be the Tripway podcast. Remember about b434.com and remember to join my second YouTube channel for more personal videos. Visit the website of the artist and the music producer for the productions I used in this video. Join other 434 social media. There's YouTube, Facebook, BitChute, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, and VK. And if you want to talk to others, go to Reddit, Telegram, or Discord. All links in the video description.